I want to kind of get on something, a topic for a minute or two. Let me kind of look at me from a different angle because I'm not going to be looking directly in the camera. I don't talk, just looking at my computer and thinking about things that I was thinking about what I was talking about. And I think what happens is I always keep getting on something because I'm actually trying to get to higher levels of understanding. And I think that's what you do. You kind of have to build up. I think one of the things I was just talking about a little while ago about clubs. You know, clubs are a way of kind of filtering people. And I think that every religion, for example, works in that system of filtering. Religions, clubs, things like that. People who share a certain worldview. You know, I think about all the stuff that Seth Godin talked about. Not Seth Rogen, Seth Godin talked about, the one who wrote Tribes and All Marketers Are Liars or Tell Stories, whatever how you want to put it. The thing is that everybody, you see, you get in groups of people that share a worldview. Jehovah's Witnesses share a certain worldview. Sometimes people's worldviews can overlap. But I was thinking like at work, in the other job, you know, where I am now. And this woman was talking to another woman. And they were talking about how, the world is, we're living in the final days, all these earthquakes and this, that, and the other thing, and blah, 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 blah. And, you know, they were talking about the shootings that happen in certain neighborhoods. Oh, yeah, these are the final days, and people don't, you know, I've heard that these are the final days stuff since I was a little kid. I used to hear that in the 60s, and the 70s, and the 80s. We were always living in the final days. We always got that all the time. You know, the final days always, you know, the final days, we're in the last days. The Bible, and they always say, the Bible said this was going to happen, and the Bible said that was going to happen, and the Bible, you know, they share a worldview that these are the final days. Anybody who doesn't agree with their worldview is wrong. Now, they don't really have any evidence. I mean, they'll point out the incidents that happen. They'll point out, you know, the thing that happened in the news about some person getting killed in a gang crossfire, or they'll look at the earthquakes that just happened, you know, in some of the places that happen. But earthquakes happen all the time. There are literally thousands of earthquakes that happen on the earth every year. And yeah, lots of people are killed by earthquakes every single year all over the world. When it hits a big city or someplace, you know, when like the thing that happened in Haiti that, you know, that makes the news. And of course they always, that same mantra, they basically have this mantra. These are the final days. This is proof. The Bible said this was going to happen. They keep saying the same thing over and over again. Are these really the final days? The question is not science, and that's not really evidence. They're just going to take it as evidence. See, that's the thing. People take things as evidence. They always take things as evidence to support their worldview. You know, if I pick up a newspaper right now, I'm going to read about somebody shooting somebody. But that would have been the case if I picked up a newspaper, let's say from 1969. In fact, I actually have old newspapers. I have newspapers all the way back to I think the oldest paper I got is from 1970. I have an old Chicago Daily News, and that newspaper, the Daily News don't even exist anymore. But I'm sure I'm going to read about a murder, a rape, a robbery, some corruption somewhere. And you know, when you look at that, you're going to find some crime in there. And you could say that that's proof of the final days. If you got a newspaper, a Chicago newspaper from the 1940s, if you got a newspaper from the early 1900s, if you got a paper from the 1800s, you know, if you got a paper from back in the days of the Civil War, that's proof of the final days. If you got newspaper from back in the days of the Revolutionary War, those proof of the final days. You know, you get a newspaper from the 1600s, you know, if there were newspapers back then. Everything is always proof of the final days. Not because it's evidence that we're living in the final days, but because that's what you're going to do. You're going to take everything you see and convert it into proof to support your worldview. And this is true with people who think that religion is stupid and silly. they're going to look at every silly example and it's proof that religion is crazy and dangerous. And if I were to point out, well, what about these religious people? What about this person? Well, you're going to look for the crazy. Even if I show you nothing but sane behavior, if they do one little thing crazy, you're going to amplify that and minimize the sane things they do and amplify the crazy thing. The same thing with the people who think we're living in the final days. If I were to point out, you know what, yesterday the weather was really nice and it was a great day and it was just wonderful, flowers and birds and everything, and it was just a wonderful day and we went out to a restaurant, had wonderful. But those people are like have a magnetic attraction to the negative. And they're not going to focus on those wonderful things. They're going to focus on, oh, they're going to pick up a newspaper. Oh, look at this terrible thing that happened. Put the paper away for right now. Let's just enjoy the meal. Let's enjoy it's not a matter of hiding from the truth. You know, for me, and that's where I get the, this whole positive thinking issue. It's not a matter of hiding from the truth. It's just a matter of looking at something from a different perspective. Because if you look at the world in negative terms, and these are the final days, no, the wailing and the gnashing of the teeth, you're going to be attracted to anything that supports that view. And if you're like me, a butterflies and puppies kind of guy, you're going to, you go past the story of the family of four that just got shot up in a home, and you're going to look at the story of, oh wow, the lost dog that was found. Oh, isn't that beautiful? I suppose it's all like that. Maybe on both sides we're being unrealistic, but if I'm going to be unrealistic, I'd rather be unrealistic on the positive side. It's just that simple.